What's up, what's up, what's up? It's Adder out here on the ones and twos, giving all y'all lovely people a new point of view. Sit back, relax, let the god of games take you on a journey. Alright now, oh shit, who's that? Oh shit, fuck, hold on. Alright people, here's what I need to happen. Unitalk the Unbent, I need you working bodies. And Gore-Track, I'm gonna need you doing logistics. I don't give a shit how many times Maurice shot you. Comes a point where you're gonna have to stop using that he shot me shit to get out of work. And Manuel, I'm gonna need you on that backhoe. Si, senora. What's this? Someone has been fucking with my equipment here. Oh my god. Someone's over there. Seize that man. Oh, that's right. You best come out because Manuel knows Krav Maga. Si, senora. Adora, is that you? You got your own tales to tell. Why you in here fucking with my shit? Do I really though? I mean, you do horror, and horror's like 90% of the shit that be happening up in here. And me, I do D&D and fantasy. Don't nobody give a shit about fantasy. They don't even hear me. Well, whose fault is that? Well, obviously the dude who's doing the fucking voice tracks. Oh shit, the video gonna go long. Let me cut in. The name of this story, y'all, is Date with Death by Montsho Shelby. It was no secret that Jenny had no control over her life, just a passenger in a sea of endless waves of problems she had no way of manipulating. The most she could hope to do was to steer her boat ever so slightly and not crash into the rocks. Her hands trembled as she put cards down on the bed, careful not to let the blood mingle with it. As far as she could tell, this was an event that always happened, that was destined to happen. It didn't matter how many times she pulled the cards, they came up the same. One could claim that the cards were bullshit, and that it didn't matter how they drew. If someone were clever enough, they could skew the results to fit their narrative, but this was not the case. Her pulls were statistically anomalies. She stared at the glassy-eyed corpse of a man whose sightless eyes stared back at her, through her. As she pulled her cards together and reshuffled them, there was a knock at the door, and Jenny jumped ever so slightly, even though she knew it was coming. She opened the door stupidly, assuming it was who she thought it was, not thinking that some random person on the hotel staff or another guest may have needed something. Luckily, it was Inya, a brown-skinned goddess with red hair and an unflappable look of self-assuredness. She gave Jenny a peck on the lips when she entered, then briskly closed the door behind her. "Who's this?" Anya asked, looking at the naked white man on the bed. "This was Kent. He was a politician, I think." "So, what do you want to do?" Inya asked in a way that said she already had an idea, but wanted to see what hers was. "I don't have one. That's why I called you," Jenny explained. Inya smiled and pulled her in closer. Both women were in their prime, at the apex of their beauty. "Do you want me to handle this?" Inya asked. "Yes," Jenny said without even thinking twice. "Well, I guess you know what my price is. Can you cover it?" "I can." Inya leaned in close and kissed Jenny hard and recklessly. They were the only two people who existed in the world. "What about Willie?" Jenny asked in between breaths. "What about her?" "She should know." Inya shrugged, as if she didn't care one way or the other. She probed her tongue into Jenny's mouth. "We're gonna do this right in front of him," Jenny said sheepishly, as the ghastly corpse's gaze fell on them, but saw nothing. It was that level of bashfulness that Inya loved, but at the same time annoyed her. "I suppose you're right. He shouldn't be getting free shows," Inya said with a smile, knowing that wasn't her concern, but decided it best to distract her from how dire their situation actually was. "How are we going to get him out of here?" said Jenny. "How about he walks out of here?" "You can't mean..." "Oh, I absolutely mean that," said Inya. "I've been looking at my cards, and I see in them great disaster and death. This may be the catalyst," said Jenny. "Oh, and this is the catalyst. And what did it say about the dead fucker, who I didn't ask you how you killed, by the way?" Inya said. Jenny fell silent, Maybe whatever doom that was destined to befall them was on its way, and the Rube Goldbergian event that started the chain reaction was already set in motion. "Dance, sister, dance," said Inya. "Dance so joyously, death wouldn't dare think to touch you." Ginny looked at her for a moment in disbelief, but only for a moment. She knew what she needed to do, in theory, but she never had in practice. Inya began to strip away her clothes and sway with reckless abandon. She danced the dance of death and stood over the bed. Her gyrations were rhythmic and slow at first, and they soon became frenetic and spastic, as if she mimicked the flutter of a heart eking out its final beats. She went into her purse on the floor, and a blade fell out of it. There was quite a measure of danger in what she intended to do, but that didn't stop her from trying it. She wanted to know what would happen much more than she feared the consequences. Ginny pranced about, coaxing death from the underworld with her sensual gyrations, while Inya swayed and dug into her wrist. It was a shallow cut, but a dangerous cut if left unattended. She began to draw the runes around the body, which would serve as runway lights for death. Her blood and the blood of the corpse mixed. She hoped it didn't sour the spell she invoked, but she couldn't expect complete perfection in a situation that was beyond her control. She wrapped the pillowcase around her wrist and tied it tight. Her head swam with delusions brought on by the loss of blood. Ginny saw Inya wobbling, but in a she's gonna pass out way, not a throw her another dollar bill way. As much as she wanted to help her, there wasn't anything she could do but hope she didn't fall unconscious. If one were to ask Death herself a favor and then bail in the middle of the proposition, it didn't look good on you. When you fucked with elements of the underworld, you couldn't do it half-assed, which is why most covenants had 3. Just in case one of you fucked up, there was another to pick up the slack. Inya's dancing was far from sexy now, but more like a troubled death march. If something didn't happen rather soon, she was going to have to call it and hope she didn't botch this too bad. Luckily for the both of them, their request was heard. She felt a cold wind blow through the room, as if there was a presence of otherworldly significance amongst them. It wasn't something that she could explain, but more so like the feeling one got when someone was staring at you longer than what was polite. Slowly, the dead man stirred. His eyes looked glassy as if no one was there, as if he were being operated by a remote, puppeted by an unseen puppet master. Inya looked over to Ginny and passed out. Ginny dared to stop the dance and move to her aid. She hoped that the spell was complete. She checked Inya's wounds, and it wasn't that deep, but it was still bleeding, and the blood soaked through the pillowcase she used as a bandage. Ginny looked up so that she could get something from her bag and saw 2 lifeless eyes peering into her, looking back down at her. She gave the abomination a wide berth as she sidestepped over to her purse on the nightstand. It reared its head and watched her emotionlessly, following her every move. Ginny grabbed tampons from her bag and put it to Inya's wrist. She looked to one of the pillows on the bed, and fear consumed her when she wanted to lean over past the animated dead man. "Hand me that," she said, just to see what it would do. The corpse followed her pointing finger with undead eyes and handed her one of the pillows on the bed. It stood there inert, holding the thing like a coat rack, as if it could stay like that all day. She used the most distance she could use to take the thing and said, "Thank you," softly under her breath as a nervous reflex. It didn't answer. Ginny took the tampon, put it to Inya's wrist, and wrapped the pillowcase around the wound. She then furiously searched her phone for what to do when someone lost blood. She had did the first 2 things, but not moving her was something she was going to have to risk. She ran into the bathroom and took out the garbage bags from the garbage can. A lot of blood was going to seep through into the mattress, but it was her hope that it wouldn't be enough to look like a murder happened. When she ran back into the room, Inya was standing up, and so too was the corpse. "What the hell is that smell?" Ginny said while pinching her nose. "I think he shit himself. If you want, you can stick a tampon in that too," said Inya with a smile. Ginny didn't respond. Her lack of response was a response. "Come on, let's go," said Ginny, tossing all the bloody sheets in a bag. Inya was leaning on the corpse for support, attempting to get to the door. "Grab another pillowcase," Inya said.